What we're also going to do is talk a little Miami Dolphins football, the American Dream Lending Miami Dolphins weekly report. That, my friends, is next.
Dolphins fans, buckle up. It's time for the American Dream Lending Miami Dolphins report with Joe Schad. When you're ready to purchase a new home or refinance the one you have, American Dream Lending will make sure your loan experience is easy with fast approvals and quick closings. Call them at 786-802-1727 or online at adreamlending.com. Here's Joe Schad with today's edition of the American Dream Lending report.
All right, let's do it, baby. There he is, and he is at the right angle, too, this time, which is a beautiful thing. Good morning, Joe. How are you doing, my friend?
It's kind of like Tua Tagovailoa. You know, the first couple of series, you got to figure things out, and once you do, football's easy.
That's it. You get it.
The Big O show is easy.
That's it. Look at it. It's nice and easy. We got the American Dream Lending board up. I mean, life is good right now, bro. We're ready for, and we got football finally here. It's here, Joe. Now you actually get to cover the game itself and not all the stuff that was going on in the off season, right? I mean,
it's such a long off season. I actually, you know, I like the transactions. I like free agency. I think in the NBA, I enjoy the off season and the free agency more than the actual games. In the NFL, I like the games. I like Sunday. And it's usually Sunday. The Dolphins don't get a lot of Thursday and Monday games. We'll see if that changes.
That will change. And, you know, I was just talking about that will change. And I think that I really compare it a lot to the young player that has a really good season. And then the writers are writing like, you know, he deserves to be in the Pro Bowl. The fans are saying, you know, he deserves to be in the Pro Bowl. But he doesn't get to the Pro Bowl because it was his first year actually playing well. And as you know, Joe, you've covered this league long enough. Usually that player has to come back the second year, play really well, and then they start getting that Pro Bowl recognition, all pro recognition, even better if they're that good. And I think the Dolphins kind of got their rookie year out of the way last year in 10 wins. And, you know, a lot of Dolphins have been DMing me and reaching out to me on Twitter and emails and saying, you know, I don't like that they're disrespecting the Dolphins. They're not believing in them. And I use that a lot like it's that first year. 10 wins was excellent, but around the league and in general, I think people need to see you do it again so they could kind of believe that it wasn't an aberration. And I think if you get another double-digit win season, and even if you get in the playoffs, I think you start to get that respect and people start to believe that the Dolphins are real. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, Big O, there's a lag time in life. You know, I wish that when I was watching football on TV that it was live, but it's not. There's a delay. And it's frustrating because I see what happened on Twitter before I see it on my TV screen. It's very annoying. But when the MMQB came out with their playoff predictions this morning, 8 of their reporters left out the Dolphins, and 0 included the Dolphins in the playoffs. Now, to suggest that there's a 0 in 8 chance that the Dolphins are going to make the playoffs this year is patently absurd. And what these reporters, many of them, don't realize is the improvement that Tua Tagovailoa has made behind the scenes. They don't get the access to practice that I have had, and they don't get access to the player interviews that I have had. And that's why I understand that, you know, you win 10 wins with a injured Tua Tagovailoa. There's no reason to believe that they will not duplicate that effort. So I'm not a big gambling guy, Big O, but whatever the over is or whatever odds you can get on the Dolphins making the playoffs, I would take it.
Yeah, it's 9.5, and I would take it also. I think it's going to be a double-digit win, and I take it to another level than you do. Actually, I look at it from the 5-4 finish from the first year. I look at it after 0-7. This has been a franchise that has taken off after 0-7 because that win in Foxborough at the final game of the season meant a lot to this team. Screw the record, the 5-11, all that. That's what people look at. I look at 5-4. I look at that guy did not lose that team after 0-7. That tells me you're a hell of a coach
Yeah, this
because you got
roster
him to
is
5 and then
this
now
ro-
10-6. I look at it differently.
This roster is twice as good as the roster that Flores had even at the end of the 2019 season. And I think the Deshaun Watson stuff sort of played into many national journalists' perception of who Tua Tagovailoa is and what the Dolphins believe he can be. You remember how prior to the NFL draft, when the 49ers secured the 3rd draft pick, someone said, Mac Jones is the guy. And then everyone just kept repeating it. Oh, Mac Jones is the guy. Mac Jones is the guy. And it is ironic to me that everyone made fun of the 49ers for considering Mac Jones. Meanwhile, Bill Belichick is some genius for landing the next Tom Brady. I mean, I understand it wasn't with the 3rd pick. So I'm going to be very fascinated to see if Mac Jones lives up to all the hype that there is about him being the next Tom Brady. And I get the feeling that Tua Tagovailoa is really relishing this opportunity, Big O, to face Mac Jones. He's not the guy who's going to come out and say, I started ahead of Mac Jones for a reason. I was Mac Jones before Mac Jones was anything. He's not going to come out and say that. But underneath the surface, having been asked a ton of questions about Mac Jones this week from reporters, oh, how smart is he? Oh, how competitive is he? Sorry, I got to get a sip here.
I got you. Trust me, bro.
I think that underneath the surface, Tua is fired up about this matchup. And I know he doesn't face Mac Jones per se. He faces the Patriots defense. But I would put my money on Tua against Belichick as opposed to Mac Jones against Brian Flores and Josh Boyer.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and that's what I was telling Dolph fans, that I think Tua is going through a stage where he's got to kind of convince the periphery that he's the guy, and then the team has got to also convince the periphery that they are a consistent team and that 10 wins last year wasn't an aberration. And I think also to a certain extent, Coach Flo has caught the attention of a lot of people around the league. But again, I think he needs a winning season too to kind of put that layer out there. And then I think people will give them the respect that they've earned. And leading into that, I think that's kind of what's gone on also with the whole captain thing. And we're making, I think, a little too much out of all of this, because you look at a lot of the names there, those are guys that are experienced and they've been through it. And whereas Tua has not. And I think I like the fact that he's not the captain right now, because he's got to kind of prove himself also, and not just in the players' eyes, but to himself. And I think a year from now, once he goes out there and he makes this his team, I think he becomes that captain right away next season. But it's just there's a process to all of this. But first of all, the question is, are people making too much in your eyes out of this whole captain thing?
So in the column I wrote in the Palm Beach Post that's on the website today, I wrote that it would have been more ideal if Tua was the captain, but don't panic, don't overreact. Don't think that this sets off some sort of alarm that Tua is not a good leader. He is a good leader. This is not an alarm that says, oh, these guys don't respect him, they don't like him, they don't trust him. That's not true at all. So the truth, as is usually the case, lies somewhere in the middle. I personally would like to see the quarterback be the leader of the team and to have that captaincy title. Now, the titles are less important than what actually happens behind the scenes. The fact that he's not a captain doesn't take away the fact that he was the guy who put together the offseason workouts. He's the guy who's been making the on-field corrections and getting the entire team together on the practice field to talk about what went well and what didn't. He's the guy that's been grabbing guys on the sideline during preseason games. That's far more important than the title. But, I mean, even you would have to admit that it was a bit odd and a bit surprising to hear that, Matt Collins is a captain, and we like Matt Collins, and he's clearly a very well-respected team player who's selfless and good on special teams and underrated as a receiver. But It was surprising. I think in an ideal situation, the Dolphins' highest paid and most famous players, not just Tua. In an ideal situation, Xavier Howard, who can't be a captain, he requested a trade. Byron Jones, who's the highest paid player on the team. Devontae Parker, who probably will never be a captain because of his soft-spoken nature.
Right.
Would all be captains. But, we can't always get what we want. And I will say this in conclusion, Ryan Fitzpatrick was not a captain in his first season with the Dolphins, at least at the start of the year in 2019. He was not voted a team captain. Of course, he was the captain throughout the season and was the captain in the following 2 years.
Right. And that's where I think that's what will happen this season. As he establishes himself, as he plays well, which I expect him to do both, I think he will earn that right and people will gravitate around him. And instead of hanging on to this whole captain crap so much, all these examples you talked about with Tua, he's a communicator. He's an organizer. And he is showing leadership qualities there by doing those kind of things. But again, you don't become that guy I'm glad that they didn't hand him that. I'm glad that he's trying to become that guy by earning it in the end.
Just to push back a little bit, they is not Brian Flores and the Dolphins. Remember, this was voted on by the players, which makes it a little weird. Now, Matt Collins did say that players put their names in the captaincy hat by standing in front of the room and saying, I would like to be a captain, or here's why I should be a captain. I do not know if Tua did not do that. Really,
that's true.
Neither side is great, right? It's either Tua didn't stand up into the room and asked to be a captain. Well, why didn't he? Or he stood in front of the room and asked to be a captain and wasn't chosen. So neither answer is kind of great, just to be honest.
No, true. You're right. Although I like the latter because in his eyes, I haven't earned it yet. I was just named a starter and I haven't really taken over. I could see where he did not go up there and say, I want to be captain because he has it in his eyes. He's like a blue collar, old school type of kid. In his eyes, he probably feels that he hasn't earned it yet. So he doesn't want to do something like that. I bet you next year, after he balls out this year, he'll stand up and he'll have that comfort zone of saying, hey, I'm the man. I got to be the captain.
I can't wait I was going to say, man,
ahead.
I can't wait for a football game, man. This stuff is all fun to talk about. And I think yesterday it was interesting that he wasn't named the captain, but I can't wait for this Buccaneers Cowboys game tonight. I can't wait to get on a plane and travel up to the Boston area. I can't wait to find out, hey, is Tua more advanced than Mac Jones, or is everyone going to flip out if Mac Jones goes for 404 and Tua struggles and gets sacked 5 times, knock on wood, with Austin Jackson expected not to play. There's always an overreaction Monday, but especially week 1. It's kind of like, after the first Major League Baseball game and your team blows a save in the 9th times, 10, because there's only 17 NFL games. I got to remember that 17 NFL games. That's very annoying.
The reaction on here will start right away on the post game show here on our show. So we'll be at Sports Grill in Miami Lakes. So hopefully it is a win and we're celebrating, having some fun, and talking about it. Now, you talked about Austin Jackson, so let's segue into that. They only activated one dude. So I keep wondering that it was a contact thing with him more than anything, and they're kind of expecting him to come up with the back-to-back negative tests or results here and all of that. Should we find out today officially, or because tomorrow might be a little late on a Friday, but today, if he's cleared, he can practice and you can feel good about putting him in the lineup. Do you expect for us to hear something permanently today that either he's available or not, or is this thing going to drag into Friday?
Jackson reportedly tested positive. Based on the NFL protocols, it does seem that he would have tested positive, because you are not placed on the NFL's COVID-19 list if vaccinated just as a contact. So that means, and so we can assume that Austin Jackson is vaccinated and thus would have tested positive if he's on the list. Now, that means that you would have to test negative twice in a 24-hour period, not to mention not having practiced.
Yeah.
It's just a long shot, in my opinion, to think that it's reasonable that Jackson will have a chance to come back. Now, that doesn't mean that it's been entirely ruled out. Head coach Brian Flores is not available today. That is an NFL change. Head coaches are available less often this year. So we will have to use our eyes and see if Austin Jackson is out there. The educated guess is he won't be, which would mean he's almost definitely out. And I think Greg Little is the most likely replacement at left tackle. Liam Eichenberg is an option, but he is coming off of 2 injuries, I believe a shoulder and a leg injury. And he is a rookie, and he's taken all his snaps at right tackle and left guard. So I think Greg Little, who struggled in Carolina, but has looked okay as a Dolphin, probably would be my leading choice to get the left tackle start.
Yeah, it's a left thigh. I think it is what it is with Eichenberg. It's a thigh injury right now with him. And I'm with you there. It's not going to be Jesse Davis that people have talked about. That would be asinine on their part to make a double switch where they would have to move Jesse to left tackle and then put somebody else at right tackle. That would make no sense. So I'm with you. I think it's going to be for sure Greg Little playing left tackle. So the final chess piece or move to that would be that they're waiting to make another move, right? And that could be maybe a Larnell Coleman just for security purposes to have another insurance policy and another body in there. So I would imagine either today or tomorrow there's going to be another transaction by the Dolphins, right? I would think.
Yeah, I mean, there's more flexibility with the COVID rules that, we're in place for 2020 and will be in place for 2021. So, if Eichenberg is active and does not start, then he could be your swing tackle. So you wouldn't necessarily have to add another tackle to the active game day roster. The Dolphins also signed another veteran offensive tackle to the practice squad. So that's something new, where the Dolphins are adding some veteran players, guys with lots of experience, to the practice squad because the rules on that have changed also.
Jabal Shear, did you cover him back in the day?
Yeah. Is he a Pitt guy? I think he's a Pitt guy from South Florida.
Because you were covering college for a long time. So
yeah, many of these players I covered, and sadly, many of them are now coaches. I mean, I was watching, Kellen Moore. I remember hanging out with him as a young player when he was a young player, and now he's the offensive coordinator in Dallas. So certainly,
Kellen Moore was at the Senior Bowl, and so I'm doing the show on Radio Row, and so they bring me Kellen Moore, Boise State, right? I think it was, if I'm correct. And so he sits down, and I look at him, and we had a really good conversation. I remember, and then when he walked away, I go, man, this guy looks like the paper boy. He doesn't look like a quarterback. That's what always stood out to me about Kellen Moore. He was a small guy, didn't really have, a body like you would think, like you would be, some kind of a quarterback. He was in, but obviously here he was at another level, and that's what obviously helped him survive somewhat in the NFL. It's kind of like Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater was not gifted by the good Lord with this incredible ability, but he's so smart that it's allowed him to stay alive in this league and be serviceable at times. And you got to be impressed with that when you're able to overcome with your smarts. All right, so talk to me a little bit about this game. Is it all down to the offensive line, Joe? Because I almost feel like I have a lot of faith in the Dolphin defense. I think they have a really good special teams unit. I think those units can keep it close. But if the offensive line doesn't do their job, it just feels like the quarterback and obviously the skill positions are going to have a long day Does it come down to those 5 guys in your eyes in this game?
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to scheme around offensive line concerns. Obviously, part of the Dolphins' offense is built on the run-pass option, the quick pass, the screens, ends arounds and reverses. So there's things that the Dolphins can do to try to counter the Patriots' pass rush if, in fact, they decide to blitz many of the Dolphins' young, unproven, still offensive linemen. But yeah, going into this game, that's clearly the biggest concern. How will Greg Little, if he plays at left tackle, hold up? How will Solomon Kinley, if he plays at left guard, hold up? I think Jesse Davis will be fine. I think Michael Dieter actually has had a pretty decent camp. So I think, until proven otherwise, the Dolphins' offensive line is the biggest concern.
Who's the offensive player you think will make the biggest impact in this game, considering the defense they're facing?
Well, Myles Gaskin didn't play in the last game that the Dolphins played the Patriots. That was a victory, but the Dolphins ran for a ton of yards. So you have to imagine Gaskin's going to get the most touches in this particular game. Mike Gesicki is a little bit under discussed. There's been so much attention placed on the Dolphins, adding Jalen Waddle, who they will want to get involved early, I assume, and Will Fuller, who's suspended for this game. But, I'll go with Gesicki. I'll give you Gaskin as rushing for 100 yards, and Gesicki, I'll give you 85-plus yards and 1+ touchdown. So,
Joe,
suit up Gesicki.
After going through training camp and the preseason, in your eyes, who will be the most impactful rookie for the Miami Dolphins this year?
Well, at the moment, Jason McCourty is ahead of Javon Holland, and at the moment, Jalen Phillips is a third-teamer. So, you have to go with Jalen Waddle. Now, I think that he's probably going to lead the receiver group in touches, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be some sort of fantasy football PPR star. So, Waddle is the answer, assuming he stays healthy. He scared the heck out of us in a preseason game when he went down. And I asked him about it yesterday, and he said, I just got rolled up on. I wanted to be like, dude, you look like you were dying out there. Like, you weren't worried? Like, you didn't think you blew out a knee or an ankle or a leg or like – so I don't know. We'll see what we learn about Waddle, but, he has to mentally get past the idea of the injury concern, and that will help him in the way that I think Albert Wilson has mentally gotten past the injury concerns of his past.
Don't forget, you can follow Joe Schad on Twitter at ShadJoe. More importantly, subscribe to the Palm Beach Post. It's very, very affordable. Plus, when you subscribe, you will get exclusive content that you do not get normally when you go to the Palm Beach Post, because these guys do some extra writing. I like Hal's little Jim Mandich stuff that he did today on the liners of the Mad Dog still living amongst us after all these years. And it is so true, because I use a lot of them on my show a lot of times in honor of Mad Dog. So really check out the Palm Beach Post, because Joe and the staff do an excellent job of covering a lot of the local sports. All right, so what's the prediction, my brother?
Well, I haven't made the prediction in the Palm Beach Post, but I'm going to go with the Dolphins. So I think that there's no reason the Dolphins can't win this game. I think the tide has turned in the AFC East. I like the Dolphins facing a rookie quarterback. So I'll give you 23-21, Jason Sanders 48-yard field goal to win it at the buzzer.
There you go. All right, Joe, we'll talk to you on Sunday, my brother, as we get ready for that matchup. Appreciate you as always here. Thank you for giving us some time. Enjoy your day, my friend.
See you, Big O.
You got it. There you go. The great Joe Schad. It is the American Dream Lending Miami Dolphins weekly report.
When you're ready to purchase a new home or refinance the one you have, American Dream Lending will make sure your loan experience is easy with fast approvals and quick closings. With many loan programs and competitive rates, now is the time to turn your dreams into reality. Ask about special financing for veterans. They never charge an application fee, and you will work directly with one of their experienced loan professionals. Stop dreaming and contact American Dream Lending today, 786-802-1727, or online at adreamlending.com.